Okay, perfect. Sorry about
What up, everybody? What's up, homies?
Not much.
Morning.
Did you guys have an excellent viewing? I actually watched it twice because I wanted to go back. I wanted to just take a look at it.
I actually made producer notes for it, so I think that's kind of the way to. I think that's kind of the way to go right now as we break this down. So welcome everybody to our Mortal Kombat 1995 review / critique / fun times. We only got like 45 minutes to do it, but Brandon's finally woke up from his slumber and he actually went to see the movie twice. If you believe.
Well, I didn't have to go far. I rolled over and used my controller to access my Netflix.
Oh my gosh.
What a task.
Yeah, so I mean, as far as it goes, how do you guys want to break it down? Like,
So my idea was pretty simple. I'm going to give a little background. For those that don't know, Mortal Kombat was a very successful video game in the early 90s. By the time the film was released in 1995, Mortal Kombat 2 had come out and had sussed out a lot of the stories of the characters in the video game, of the beat 'em up, slash 'em up, kind of take their spine out of their bodies and crush them, fatalities, finish them, and all yada yada. If you don't know what Mortal Kombat is, you probably shouldn't be listening to this podcast, but that's okay. And then on the other side of it, Paul W.S. Anderson, not to be confused with Paul Thomas Anderson, who is the Academy Award-winning director, not the Mia Jovovich husband.
Yeah, not the Resident Evil. He continuously has done video games and done a mediocre job at pretty much all of them. Like,
that's literally the Paul Thomas Anderson way. Is like, it's okay, and that's kind of how I feel about this movie. So we thought it'd be funny to go over, at the time, in my opinion, the greatest video game movie ever made. At the time.
Agreed.
And then Street Fighter came out.
So,
different qualities to it.
yeah.
Oh, that movie is amazing.
Different qualities to it.
That movie is amazing. I will debate anybody who listening to this or watching this.
Funny story is Jean-Claude Van Damme was supposed to play Johnny Cage, and he did not. He decided to opt out and do Street Fighter instead.
Well, which wasn't necessarily like a bad move because, again, I feel like they both share the same element of being like they have the right amount of cheese when it comes to like being the video game thing. Like they border the video game versus like the actual like filmmaking. They both have that like camp style to them. You know, they feel very, very like lame and cheesy and over the top. They both have that, but I would definitely say that, like between the two, Street Fighter is more of the joke movie that I find entertaining, and Mortal Kombat's the better movie. While that has some tentative feelings as well about that opinion too, but yeah, I mean, it's interesting how those were relatively the most successful video game movies, right? I mean,
the two most successful franchises at the time. I mean, every donut shop and bar had Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter there for you to play. You know?
Yeah.
On the other side of it, so the way I'm breaking this down is I think the best way to go about it is 2 things you really liked about the movie, and then 2 things you really didn't like. And but if you're offering your shit talk, you have to bring up a way of resolve. Like, bring up a way of you might have done it a different way or could have done it better.
Okay.
So your kind of 2 favorite things of the film itself, and then also your 2 biggest pet peeves of it that you don't like that you might want to change. So if you haven't seen Mortal Kombat, anybody out there that's listening to this podcast or watching it on YouTube, it is on Netflix right now, 1995 Mortal Kombat. Okay, so Derek or Brandon, you want to go first?
I kind of like one of the biggest things for me was the actual matches that they had. I could see how those were actually pretty good. Like Liu Kang fought Sub-Zero, Johnny Cage fought Scorpion, Sonya Blade fought Kano, who I'll go into one of my peeves here. Kano was great. I don't remember him ever being Australian, so they kind of threw that out there. And I don't know. To me, I was just watching that, and I was just kind of like, really? All right, whatever. But I did like the campiness in it. Like I totally forgot about the scene, and I remembered it when I was watching it yesterday. But when Johnny Cage kills Scorpion, and there's like his picture there, and it's like to my biggest fan, Johnny Cage. That was like straight from the game, you know. Scorpion taking his mask off and then blowing fire. That was like straight from the game. Sub-Zero, freezing people, straight from the game. How he died, though, fucking still irritates me to this day. Like, he has, like, this ice orb going, and then water somehow fucking kills him. Like, he gets impaled through a thing of ice. I don't know. To me, that's just stupid. That was dumb. I'm sorry. That's fucking dumb. So,
why is that stupid? He basically throws water in the bucket, and those watching on YouTube, you're watching the scene right now. He throws the water bucket into the ice, the big ice globe, and it freezes and turns into just a deadly spike, and it kills him.
Which impales him, and then all of a sudden he freezes over.
Well, yeah, because the thing freezes. His power freezes. The thing was made of his thing, like. That's such a weak, like, petty little thing. And on top of that,
I can't think of things. I'm just thinking of like pet peeves, like in my head. Like,
well, it's good. It's a good story writing beat, because that's basically like how do you beat this boss? How do you beat this battle? It's not just fighting. There's like an extra element that you have to use your brain. That's typical with like these types of, like, when you have like an adventure film, somebody has to like figure something out. Like, he was given the hint, and then he figured it out in the moment and used it to his advantage to win. So that's good for like a story beat. That's a good element in the writing.
Okay, you want to?
One of my big qualms with the film is stuff like that. There's good consistency on some of it, and then fucking terrible consistency.
So then you want to know my biggest pet peeve, though? No, for real, this is my biggest pet peeve. Why can Raiden not go to Outworld?
His powers don't work there. His element. He's out of his element. As unlike the Outworld people, he's not allowed to go there. He's a protector of Earthrealm, so he's allowed to go to Earthrealm and do all his crazy shit there. And the tournament it's not in Outworld. The tournament is still in Earthrealm.
It's shared. It seems that the way that they did it's like shared, which is a point that I would get to too, and part of my critique and stuff on it. But
so Derek, you liked fighting. You didn't like the fact that Kano was Australian, even though the actor is Australian. But
I know the actor's Australian, but I thought the character was like Japanese or some shit. To me, that was just kind of like, really?
Well, I think that's because, like, going through,
annoyed me too.
Well, like, going through like
the first game.
Who wasn't?
Jax was not in the first game.
Right, but again, like I said, Mortal Kombat 2 had come out. Yeah, Mortal Kombat 2 had come out already, so they had enough backstory for Jax to be in there, and it made more sense. Because Mortal Kombat 1 is so simplistic as far as, like, the characters being explained. There's no real good backstory. Like, one of my little peeves is, obviously it's a crutch in screenwriting, and you can explain it in a certain way, but it's an example where Goro and Kano and Shang Tsung are in the banquet table, and then Shang Tsung's like, we have a problem with Princess Kitana, and then Goro just goes, the Emperor's adopted daughter?
The Emperor's adopted daughter?
Like, that's like, what, like, who fucking talks like that? And especially not a four-armed dude like that just gives you all the backstory of her. Like, what the fuck?
Well,
like,
that's the big thing, I think, is the way they did some exposition. They didn't do it in a natural way. It very much reminds me of any video game that's more on the Japanese end with how shitty the dialogue is. Like, it's never really like fluid, because I would say part of it is a translation thing when it comes to like how stuff is spoken in Japanese, and then when it's translated to English, the dialogue lines aren't as good. I don't know how the recording goes with that, but generally speaking, whenever you're playing any sort of more Japanese influenced game, Mortal Kombat isn't really specifically heavy on it, but it does use a lot of like cultural lore for different like fighting styles and all that. And a lot of that comes from Japanese and Chinese and more the Asian type culture stuff. So to me, it's, yeah, the way that like their dialogue is written and stuff is very fucking terrible in a lot of scenes. And that's like one of the things to me is like they have these good ideas for some setup stuff to how to explain stuff, but there's so many better ways that they could have approached it and made it feel just like the video game without just being like shitty dialogue, you know? Like that's one of my big complaints is like, and I could give you a couple examples. Like with Kano specifically, where he's sitting there, you know, speaking of when he's in that dining hall with Goro, and Shang Tsung leaves and he's like, oh, you know, he goes, oh, if he's some sort of like amazing sorcerer, then how come he's got such a crummy boat? You know, when he says that, and the whole thing is I didn't know this until looking it up, but the generational thing of like the 10 tournaments, so like where they're at, they say like every generation there's a tournament. So the idea is I guess it's like every 30 or 40 years. So it would make sense for when this tournament would be starting, Shang Tsung would have that type of boat because that's the type of boat that would exist in like fucking 1700s. So it makes sense. But there's like, if they had that explanation where that's how long that, instead of saying that we're on the 10th tournament and we have no idea like if that's every year there's a tournament, every 1,000 years there's a tournament, there was nothing to establish that first. That could have been a better joke because it would have made more sense, you know? It's like all these little things that have payoff that they kind of forgot to do in certain instances. That's kind of where I feel like the writing was really more shit, and the story. It's like why did Raiden? You mean to tell me in the 9 tournaments before that he couldn't find any humans that could do it? They literally these guys won 9 in a row. They have to win one more, and it's over. Like it doesn't seem like that would ever get that bad. It's like just the way that they kind of pieced it up. It's you know.
But that's in the game though. That's explained in the first game, and like the first kind of thing is like it says Outworld has won 9. You know, this is the 10th tournament, and then the start screen pops up for the first game. So right. It's in there. So you're kind of sticking with the lore. But what I'm saying is they could have explained it in a way of like giving you a timeline of knowing like what that means, you know? So you have no idea what that means other than, you know, oh, number 10. Can't lose number 10. So let's talk shit here, because that's what we're doing. We're just talking shit at this point. But I think the opening is kind of just dumb. It's not even a good fight scene. It's not anything to really grab you between Chang and Shang Tsung fighting at the temple. Like instead, do like a montage flashback with a voiceover. Even have the beautiful Christopher Lambert do a voiceover of being like, Mortal Kombat is a 10-year and showing Earth fighters lose over time, showing Kung Lao lose. Like that's what I want. Like you need a little bit of setup to be like, and this is my last hope. It's like, and then dive into the human element of it is like, you know, men's souls are corrupted with greed and jealousy and envy and blah, blah, blah. And you need like a soul that is ready to fight for just and truth. And none of my fighters were ever like that. And this is our 10th tournament. Hopefully one of them is like that. Because the idea of like, Johnny Cage has a massive ego and he's just a dick and a prick and whatnot. And right. Sonya doesn't trust anybody. Liu Kang is like the middle of both of them because he does have a vengeance trip, but he's also got like, you know, he's got that like ego problem of like not believing the sorcery and all that stuff that his uncles and grandfathers have told him. So like get some like little bit of background in the beginning, some cool ass fight scene of Kung Lao losing the 9th tournament because everyone wanted to see that. Even the fans of the video game before Kung Lao was in number 2, like wanted to see that. So like, I don't know. I think there needed to be some good exposition because it feels like you're immediately thrusted into the movie with the characters like Liu Kang, Brother Dead, Go Home, Sonya Blade in a club, hunting down somebody. Johnny, he's a movie star. Done. Like, it's just too much too quickly.
So 2 peeves on that, right? Liu Kang gets a message from his grandfather saying, Liu Kang, Brother Dead,
Oh
Come
yeah,
here,
that fucking telegram. I laughed so hard. I was like, "Who sends when your fucking family member dies? Who sends that fucking note? Like, are they that poor that's as many words as they can?
Yes,
like,
they're monks.
afford?
Too much television.
Well, yeah.
Dude, they gotta be able to fucking afford more than like 4 words on that. Like, that's bullshit.
American life is enfeebled his mind. Too much television.
Another thing that was really kind of creepy is in that whole scene, I'm not even kidding you, there's no women. There's just a bunch of dudes in temples just hanging out, which I'm guessing
yeah, like they're monks.
Monks. Right. No, I understand that, but I'm saying there's no
the Tibetan monks.
at all.
There's not women Tibetan monks, bro. They're all fucking monks.
Well, even still, they have all these kids around. Where did all these kids come from?
It's like a pilgrimage. You need to learn about some Eastern fucking culture, dog.
Ready to fucking do this right now.
Get on that.
Anyways,
idiot. God, watch Kundun, you jackass.
So, anyways, how the hell did he print this? I don't know. That just kind of took me out of the. How did he send the message?
They sent a telegram to a telegram company, and they sent the telegram to. That's how that works. I know.
See,
we don't ever use it. We've never used it. You know, we didn't live in the wartime. You know, we didn't get telegrams for any of our family, but our family got telegrams. You know what I mean? Like,
it seemed like they were miles away from civilization. All right, whatever.
Yes, that's the point.
Anyways, my second thing is when they're in the club and Sonya Blade is just running through the club with a shotgun with a light on it, and all these people are just headbanging, you know, and literally she's just going through. And then all of a sudden, she's like hitting people, and then they're like, "Oh, you know, that's part of the mosh pit or whatever." And then all of a sudden, she like blasts this guy, but he fires back first, and he shoots like a bunch of machine gun rounds at her. And there's a bunch of people behind her, and then he fires, and in the next scene, there's still people just dancing. Like, where did those bullets go? That makes zero sense. I get that it's an action movie, but that makes zero sense to me.
Well, it doesn't have the normal expectation of like. When the cop, you know, like to me, what I think would have worked would have been like, you remember in Kindergarten Cop where Arnold has to go pick up the chick that's like the hooker that has drugs, and he goes to the party and he fucking shoots the speaker and blows out the fucking speaker. Then everybody's like, oh, and then there's that black dude that's like chilling with her, and he's like, you mind if I sit down? And the guy's like, oh no, man, you can sit down, baby, no problem. Like, oh, it's all good. And he like ducks out, you know. Like, some scene like that would have made a bit more sense in that. But here's my big problem with that. Are Shang Tsung and Kano in the fucking roof? Because he has to climb down a hatch to get back to where he's going. Did you ever notice that Kano, when he exits, he doesn't walk out a door. He climbs on a fucking hatch he climbs down a hatch in the floor. Like, they're just in a nightclub. This isn't like a fucking secret maze house or whatever. Like, he's just in the office of the nightclub, but apparently in order to get in there you have to climb a hatch that's in the bottom of the office.
No, you missed the deleted scene. Shang Tsung actually has a helicopter that Leonardo da Vinci created, you know, that he's on top and they're gonna fly away, you know, and before that happens, Kano had to just make sure he could climb down the ladder.
Derek, what the fuck is your problem?
No, I noticed that too, and I was just kind of like, oh.
Well, I mean, that's my big problem with that. To me, I can believe the fact that like the club was loud and people didn't hear it, you know. But I would have expected like at least the kind of normal reaction where like cops come in, all right, show's over, you know, blah blah blah. We're looking for somebody, and then there's like a chase. Like
it was literally two cops
connected better. Huh?
It was literally two cops, though. It was only Sonya and Jax. That was another thing I was kind of like...
She's going above the law, bro. That was her thing. That's why that was her vice. She's got that vengeance in her heart, you know? She wants to get Kano, killed her partner. Although I will say Johnny Cage's thing is not that he's, like, arrogant. It's the fact that he is good, but nobody believes that he's good. That's his real, like, arc. And honestly, would have been better for him as a character arc with Shang Tsung or Goro was the fact that he could, like, you know, Shang Tsung could say something, oh, you nobody thinks that you're any good, and he's like, well, you did because I'm here. Like, he could have had some line like that, you know, where it's like that's his understanding. Like, Johnny Cage just wanted a place to prove that he was actually good because everybody labeled him as a fake, you know. That was like his big character arc. So I think that was like misstepped kind of they didn't they just made him look like the cocky guy, which his character is, but they could have given like him an actual arc too. Because Sonya doesn't really get an arc either. She just kills Kano. That's it. She's more of like the pride.
She becomes eye candy. She becomes eye candy at the end. She's wearing a fucking dress, and she's like,
yeah, she's wearing like a leather, like a leather outfit or whatever. I never saw that secret outfit for her. I never unlocked that shit.
and then that guy Art Lean, that was another like shoe in that I was just kind of like, really?
Well, I was reading that they just wrote it in. I don't know why though. You know, like
they're supposed to have him as a terror, like as a person when obviously he gets killed by Goro, to show how big of a threat Goro is, even though you get that Cannibal Corpse fucking montage of him just throwing guys on the ground, you know? And how hard was it to film that?
Yeah, well, all those dudes had to take dives onto those fucking pebble rocks. Holy shit! Like how fucking shitty is that?
Dude, that was legit. I'm not gonna lie, that was like the best like cutscene ever. Like,
so honestly, though, Art Lee, they were supposed to have a scene where they buried him, but they cut it out. Or they didn't film it. They actually it was in the script. They just didn't film it to actually where they actually would come together, the three of them, and realize, oh shit, this threat is real, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, not that you got a guy frozen and his guts got spilled, or you had to fight Scorpion in the thing, you know, in hell pretty much, that wouldn't bring you to kind of come together. But it makes sense that they cut it out. He was just supposed to be like the human connection. But what you guys are saying about the nightclub, and which is kind of I guess the problem is, I guess the biggest thing is character development, right? Is like developing arcs, and you don't have to do it so elaborately where you make a 3-hour movie, but like you definitely can do it to a point where within the film we start understanding who these characters are very quickly. And I think we understood them more than most because we played the video games, and most of the video games fans were just like, we understood these more than most, and we just want to see them fight, right? But you could tell there's liberties taken with the guy. And I remember rewinding that scene a couple times last night when I was watching it. The guy doesn't even get hit by the shotgun blast. It's just filmed of him getting the glass breaking
and then getting knocked back.
And then him getting pulled on a string. It's like when people make action movies, sometimes their mind isn't on the actual look of the action. It's just the action itself and getting that done. They don't really kind of go, how did this look on camera? How did this play out? I want to make sure I've got the right cameras on set to make sure this looks great. I think that was just a cool thing. Like, oh my God, it's my first time using wire work. Let's just fucking do it. It's going to be fun. Like, there's a lot of that in this movie. And I guess it was like PWS's second or third movie. So, like, I guess it's his first big studio release. So I guess he kind of just, with the budget in hand, you don't know. You fly by the seat of your pants, I guess. So, I don't know. That was one of my biggest pet peeves, though. The action scenes get a little too much for the reasons of being. Like, when they fight in the banquet room where Kano and Goro and Shang Tsung were, it's like, well, did we need this fight? Like, do we really necessarily need this fight? We were getting kind of this good character development moment where they're like laughing at each other, and then they run around in a circle. Johnny Cage makes a remark, and then Sonya Blade's like, I smell bullshit. And you can get like an even more kind of thing, and then, oh, let's fight. Let's break this up with a fight. And that's the stuff that annoyed me the most.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing was just the way that they kind of structured it. They gave too many things like trying to appeal to what the game was instead of having like a very divisive or a very, like, that's the wrong word, very specific style of like what they wanted to lead into, because there are like some cool things, like for instance with Liu Kang, he doesn't use like his fireball or his bicycle kick until they're in Outworld. So the way that I started imagining this on the way that they should have wrote it was the tournament that's on Earth is like fighting Earth people, but there's also these other representatives that they see that are other warriors. And those are like your Scorpion, Sub-Zero, if you wanted to have, because like they were supposed to have Jade, I guess, in the movie, but I don't know why they didn't just have Melina, because Melina and Kitana were the sisters that were basically, they were like the other Sonya Blade characters if you were playing the game. If you were to compare it like fighting styles, like quick characters, the female characters had certain types of attacks and stuff. But basically they were like twin sisters or something like that. And like then when you like bring in these characters from 2, which is fine, like that expands the world, like to cover the 2 games that are out, because you have like Reptile, you kind of make like to Shao Kahn. Shao Kahn was in the sequel. He was in 2. He wasn't in the first one. Like I think there may have been a text reference to Shao Kahn, and maybe he appears as like a sprite in the background of something. But the Goro and Shang Tsung were the bosses of the first game. So like they incorporated a lot of characters that they could have developed, and they could have just started with like regular human fights, and then it accelerated to when the fatalities could happen when they were in Outworld, because now there's like power that's like going through these characters. So now their abilities that they have in the game that are like a little more fantastical, they're justified in the explanation and the lore. Because like Liu Kang can't do that fireball on Earth, but he did it to Shang Tsung when they're in Outworld fighting. He did the bicycle kick where he could like fly across the fucking room. Johnny Cage, when he did the shadow kick, I believe that was because that was against Goro, right? Like, did he do the shadow kick? He didn't do the shadow kick. Oh, he did do it against Scorpion, didn't he? I can't specifically remember, because I think he did it maybe once or twice, but I think when he does the shadow kick.
Sorry, he tries to do it when after the Get Over Here is done, he's doing the big run, and then he does it, and then he gets sucked into the portal. That's when he does it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's right. And so to me, like, yeah, that kind of could be something where, again, that could have just been where he tried to kick into it, like he tried to jump kick, ended up in Outworld, but then he could pull off that kick in Outworld, and it actually would look like the video game. Like that type of element where you keep the realistic to the Earth thing, and then the supernatural to the supernatural world. And now you could have like the fatalities, you could have the friendships. Like it would make more sense in the video game sense, because here you have like Liu Kang and Kitana fight. How come they didn't have to kill each other? Everybody else did, but they didn't.
Yeah, he didn't take anyone's soul, which... Yeah.
I mean, so to me, like they fucked up in how they were trying to do it. And I think if they had the idea to keep the human element, the human thing, and then when they got to like the supernatural realm, that's where all the characters started figuring out they have supernatural abilities. I think that would have made a better storytelling element to it, because then you could be more creative with how you got it. You'd have these fights end where like the people would get the shit beat out of them, but they're, whatever. So that human's out. But then when they get to this other realm, that's where like humans start getting killed, because they start getting killed by like Scorpion, fucking Sub-Zero, freezing them and shit. Like it would make more sense in that, I think,
Yeah. I also have a big pet peeve. I didn't really care for that fight where Liu Kang is fighting the guy looks like Eddie from what's it called? From
Eddie Gordo from Tekken.
Yeah, Eddie Gordo. I was looking at that and I was like, what the fuck? I don't know. That was just, I don't know. When you just throw random characters in, I'm kind of just like, huh? And then like again, just taking Raiden out. Like I'm very depressed about that, because in the game, you can beat Raiden and you can beat Shang Tsung, which means you had to have gone to Outworld, which means now they just completely wrote a character out for half of the movie. Go ahead.
You can't beat Shang Tsung in Mortal Kombat 1.
Well, no, I'm saying you can beat the game with Raiden, right?
That is correct.
Yeah. So that means you went to Outworld as Raiden, right?
In the game, yes.
Yes. Do you think they just didn't have Christopher Lambert do it because he was old at the time? And they were just kind of like, oh, here you go?
Well, I guess we got a little sidetracked here because we're just doing all the shitting, right now.
Yep.
But I would say that I like the cast was like my number one thing, because I actually do like the cast. Like I do like the guy for Liu Kang, and I do like Lyndon Ashby as Johnny Cage and Bridget Wilson as Sonya. They had a really strong cast. Christopher Lambert, my only problem with him is that I know they needed a name to kind of sell the movie at the time, and it gets nerds excited because he was the Highlander, right? But he wasn't cut out to be Raiden. Like, I thought Raiden could have been someone a little bit more, like, older, but I don't know. That's just my only peeve about the casting, really. Everybody else is actually well casted. Even the Australian Kano. Sorry, Derek. It's just, he was fine.
I like that guy. He was in what was it? Deep Horizon or whatever, or
Deep Rising?
Deep Rising. There you go. Yeah, Kano. He's one of the mercenary guys.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, honestly, now that I think about it, I can't because I like that movie a lot. But yeah, I think you are right. That's funny too because one of the guys is Sagat too, or Sagat. The head, like the leader of the mercenaries is Sagat. So you had literally a dude from Street Fighter and a dude from Mortal Kombat. That's funny.
They were hot at the time, dude. They were just hot.
Yeah, all of those people were at the time.
It was like 90s hot time. The other thing that I respect, but it doesn't really work, even though it is there minimally, and I respect the attempt. I really do. I respect the attempt of having the actors perform their own stunts and perform their own fight scenes. The problem is, though, they're so slow. They're so slow compared to like Jackie Chan or Jet Li movies or anything with like a stuntman with like pullback wide shots. And I know they tried their best, like in the Scorpion fight scene to me is the best. It's like the reptile one is very close because both of those guys are professional fighters. But the reason the Scorpion one works so much is just because of the setting, the soundtrack on that is good, and like the way the close-ups, like it just looks brutal. It's actually one of the most brutal fights in the movie. But like I think having the actors do their own stunts was a little like you're trying a little too hard here because you more than likely were not training them as much as how these big budget movies nowadays are. Like Chris Hemsworth will do like 6 months of training before he's Thor or something. You definitely were not doing that with these guys. You know, Lyndon Ashby had to go do Melrose Place. Bridget Wilson had to go do Billy Madison. Like that's just the nature of the beast of Hollywood back in the 90s, right? So I just feel like good casting choices, but then my problem with it is the fighting was a little too slow. And maybe you couldn't have Christopher Lambert. Derek's right, because he probably was like, bro, I'm the hotshot movie star on this set. I'm not doing any of that shit. Bye. You know? So I don't know. But that's just something for me is like what I noticed yesterday was like the fight scenes are really, really slow until there's actually two professional fighters. Then it starts picking up. And it's actually really fun to watch.
Definitely the Sonya Blade fight and the Johnny Cage fight are like the least as far as Johnny Cage with Goro. Johnny Cage with Scorpion was a lot better. It was more because it wasn't as I don't know. That one was more on the element of like traversing, because that was one of the things that was in Mortal Kombat 2 was like you could change the area of the terrain that you were fighting in. So you could knock somebody down like a level and then you'd be fighting like on a different level. So that was kind of like the cool aspect of that fight and why that fight was entertaining in itself. But like a lot of that fight wasn't really like Johnny Cage fighting Scorpion that much. Like one whole segment that was a good like 20 seconds was him like climbing up the thing and then backflipping and grabbing the fucking like thing above him and then flipping up there and then
doing pull-ups. He was doing pull-ups.
Over and goes, get down here, and he kicks the fucking thing. Like there was no point for him to flip up there because as soon as he landed up there, Scorpion just fucking kicked it over and it fell over. Like
so here's my thing with that.
It was the spectacle for that fight.
It was the set designer going, look at how fucking dope this set is.
I know, but that's what I think. That's what I think is one of the best things. Well, basically, I love the choreography of like the fight stuff because it's really well done. Even though some of the fights are more on the amateur side and they're not like really, really like high intensity, but just the set design and the choreography is like phenomenal. I mean, the set design, every fight had its own arena, like it had its own feel. Like there was like, and I mean, and then like on top of it, the soundtrack too, just being paired with all of these things was just like, I mean, if you want a great workout, just put fucking the Mortal Kombat soundtrack on and just sit through that for like an hour, and that has all these different fluctuations too for your heart rate and stuff. So if you go with the music, I swear to God, dude, if you go with the music, you're gonna get fucking.
I had that CD when I was a kid, and I had the cassette. I wore that shit out because there was like really good electronic music. There was really good like death metal, heavy metal. One of the greatest bands that never became a thing was Mother's Day Out. They literally broke up when they got signed, which was so ridiculous. But like they would have been really, really cool. But that soundtrack, that's my second favorite thing of this entire film, is the soundtrack is fucking on point. And even the underscore with George S. Clinton, not George Clinton from Parliament.
Yeah.
Funk.
Yeah, no. When I saw that name, I was like, wait, hold on, no way. You know?
No, the composer. But the guitar work is actually
He was
done
too
by
busy.
Damien alum Buckethead. Buckethead did the guitar work for the movie. So all the guitar you hear is Buckethead.
Oh, nice. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, hey, did you guys know Outworld was filmed at the Auto Club Speedway?
Yeah, I did see that. I did see something that was mentioned on that. It was filmed where it was like a mill originally, and then they like tore it down or whatever. Yeah, but out in Fontana.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't look too much different nowadays either.
Yeah.
Okay, actually, so now we're talking about that too. Okay, so Reptile going into the statue. That was another thing too. I was just kind of like, really? Was this necessary? Like,
It showed off a lot of the CGI, man. There was a lot of CGI moments too. The other thing is they had no idea what Reptile, like when the lizard's like chasing things around, they had no idea what it was going to look like. They like fixed that in like late post. And that fight apparently wasn't even supposed to be in the movie between him and the physical Reptile guy, but they said they needed one more fight, and it actually is. Like I said, it's my second favorite fight of the movie, and it's got a sick ass Tracy Lords song. She did porn and she did DJing. Why? Who could have thought?
Yeah,
that was Tracy Lords.
What?
That was Tracy Lords.
Yeah,
Tracy
the song
Lords.
that's playing the like that whole thing. That whole fucking thing, yeah.
Dude, that's her mix. That's her.
Dude, and that's what's crazy about the soundtrack is like it was like the first huge EDM like album, right? Like it was like the biggest EDM selling album at the time, but like I think like it was really kind of a breakout for EDM to a lot of like the public. I think like a lot of people at that point it was still pretty underground and was still kind of niche in its thing, but that movie really propelled like electronic like music to being like on a really, really big scale, because everybody saw that and was like, oh, this is like techno, this is great, this is so cool, you know, like, and then like just a few years after that, I want to say, was like your Darude, you know, with Sandstorm and like all your other shit, all those like happy hardcore, all those mashups shit, like that stuff all really was starting to get huge at that point. So yeah, I mean, like, I think it did really well as far as for like album sales for that album, like specifically.
I think I remember reading something that said it was like #1 for like 3 weeks in a row.
It went platinum like super quick, like insanely quick. Like for any other electronic album, like had never been done before, you know? So it's kind of crazy that like this film did a lot of really good stuff, right? And also still struggled as like trying to figure out how to take this video game genre and turn it into like film, you know? Like it still has a lot of problems with what the film is. Like to me, it's entertaining. I love it for the sense that it's entertaining and it's fun, but it's not a great film by any standard. You know what I mean? Like it's all right if it works.
It's better than video game movie.
Let's say that again, Derek.
It's a great video game movie.
I agree. It's better. It's better than Super Mario Brothers. Yes, it is, Derek. And if you and it's better as a film because I do love Street Fighter for its own terribleness, but it is a better film than Street Fighter, and it's a better movie than The Legend of Chun-Li. It's a better movie than DOA. It's a better movie than Far Cry or any of the U-Bowl fucking piece of shit movies that he does. It's way
What about Double Dragon?
It's better than fucking Double Dragon. That's for damn sure. And Double Dragon spends so much money. Oh my god! If you look at that, that's another video game movie.
Yeah, but I think Double Dragon CG is a bit better because I think Mortal Kombat a lot of the like the Sub-Zero CG is fine. The Scorpion CG, when it comes to the get over here hand thing, it's awful. It's terrible. It looks so bad. Just looks so bad in comparison to everything else being practical, and that really stands out as being shitty. But like everything else, like Shang Tsung, the only part that really sucks with Shang Tsung was where I think it was when he was taking Art Soul, and like the camera rate, like the frame rate, like shudders, and it looks really bad when it like zooms in with his soul going into his eyeball.
Yeah,
like that's like the worst shot in the entire film. But everything else is pretty good for CG.
Yeah, it's
Just
not bad.
except for the ones that like don't like Reptile's kind of shitty too. Like it stands out a little too much. It's not. It could be more subtle, I guess. You know?
They did that way too late, and they've admitted that they made that creature look the way it looked way too late in the process. Like that was like a last minute bubblegum and scotch tape thing. So
yeah,
when Scorpion's head explodes, that almost looked like it was the exact same explosion from Last Action Hero when the dynamite is rolling towards Danny, and then he runs towards the screen. And it like blows up.
Oh, like the sprite or the image that they used.
Yeah, it looks like they just literally took that and then used it in this. I was like,
well, no, because they actually blew shit up because you can see Scorpion fly apart. You can see like a hand like fly. Like I mean, that was still a practical effect. They blew some shit up. You know what I mean? Like so, maybe they put in extra like fire burst or flare burst or whatever, but. That was a real thing that they blew up. You could see it like pieces like fly, you know?
Yeah.
So I think for me, like watching that movie again and understanding the limitations and probably the speed of having to make that movie so quickly, because it probably wasn't given enough time to be made, like anything back then that was a hot commodity. I think it turned out pretty good. I think it turned out okay where like people can watch that and enjoy it and be entertained. And no, it is not like, you know, on a level of what comic book movies have achieved nowadays, but like it was pretty damn good for 1995. It wasn't.
Oh, yeah.
And actually, I looked this up. I talked to you guys about this yesterday. That scene where they're landing on the beach, that is the exact same beach from Surf Ninjas.
Oh, it is?
It is the exact same beach. I looked
They all make the surfboards, and they all go on. They're like, Kwansu dudes!
Yes, it's the exact same beach. It's Farah Nang.
Well, it's probably like, you know, I mean, shooting in Thailand, because didn't they shot fucking Street Fighter in Thailand, didn't they?
Yeah, there's the temples or whatever.
I want to say, like, Thailand's got to be super cheap if you're trying to make it look like anywhere Asian. Like, if you need a super Asian location, Thailand's your place, man. You go there, I mean, I don't know what the exchange rate is, but you know, they seem to shoot a lot of those over there. Like
super Asian location. That's my next band name.
Well, I'm sure after all this shit, China's going to be really cheap to film at. So we might start.
And taking out the insurance policy to send people over there, though, is going to be so ridiculous.
Oh, I don't think if people are going to necessarily want to do it for a while, you know. But
yeah, no,
I think that overall it's a very entertaining movie. I loved it because you know, growing up as a kid watching it, knowing the video game like right when the video game was out, and then everybody had been hearing about how they were making a Mortal Kombat movie, so everybody was excited. Like I feel like a lot of the nostalgic aspect of it makes it better to me than it would be to maybe some other people watching it. But, yeah, I mean, overall, there's a lot of really good stuff to it. It was a great attempt at what they did. I just think the story was kind of shit, and I feel like they could have done a bit better at fleshing it out more and giving more, you know, development to the characters, creating it in a way where it made sense that they were, like, working through the tournament instead of them just, like, all of a sudden being buddies and then knowing they had these bad guys they had to fight against. Like, they could have fought each other initially, and then realized, okay, we don't fight each other because we have to represent Earth. There's all these ideas that they could have done that I think would have been a better way to tell a story.
So Mortal Kombat, I give it a C+, 7.8.
In the video game realm, I'll give it an A, but overall movie, I'll give it like a C. Like,
video game movie, it's one of the better ones. It's in the Video Game Movie Hall of Fame, for God's sake. Yes.
Right, so if you're comparing it to, speaking of this, shout out to the guy that looks like Steven Spielberg in it, who was actually, check this out. He was, according to the trivia on IMDb, he was actually supposed to be into it, but he had a scheduling conflict. I forget what movie he was doing, but he was a huge fan of Mortal Kombat, Steven Spielberg, and he actually wanted to be in that movie.
Mortal Kombat is in the books. We reviewed it. I think another movie for people we're going to do, because I think you guys would be interested in this, favorite threequel of all time. I think we would all maybe agree on this. Die Hard with a Vengeance. The greatest threequel movie of all time.
Yeah, well, I mean, as far as for sequels go, if you get to 3, I don't think there is a better 3 than that.
So, guys, we've hit our video game movie. We've done our Mortal Kombat. HBO Go, or if you have the John McClane anthology, as Brandon does, you can watch Die Hard with a Vengeance. All right, so that'll be our next week one. We got to run. We love you all. We hope you're staying safe, and hope you've been enjoying these live podcasts. These are live to video podcasts.
Well, thank you guys. Take care.
Yes. Thank you. Take care.